Now let's take a look at a more realistic scenario in which we not only want to extract a segment from a video, but also compress the extracted segment to reduce its file size. I'll click the Open File button on the left of the Shotcut button bar. On my desktop, there's a video named 2014, which I'll double-click on to open. It automatically starts to play in Shotcut. This is a time-lapse video showing several night-day cycles as indicated by the lamp at the bottom of the frame either being on or off. Notice the rapid cloud movement due to the extreme time compression. I'll tap the spacebar to pause playback. Let's say we'd like to extract a 10-minute segment from this video beginning at the instant the light first turns off. In addition, I'd like the segment to look good and not be any larger than 300 megabytes in size. First, let's move to the very beginning of the video by tapping the Home key on the keyboard. Next, let's begin playback by tapping the spacebar, and when we first see the lamp turn off, we'll tap the spacebar again to pause playback. Now, to move more precisely to the very first frame where the light turns off, I'll use the left and right arrow keys. I'll tap the left arrow key to move backwards frame by frame until I see the last frame where the light is on. Next, I'll tap the right arrow key one time to move one frame forward. That's the very beginning of the segment I'd like to extract. I'll mark that as the end point by tapping the letter I on my keyboard. If we take a look at the counter at the bottom left of the Shotcut window, we can see that right now we're at 0 hours, 0 minutes, 10 seconds, and 18 frames into the video. The end of the segment we'd like to extract will be 10 minutes from this point. In other words, it'll be at 10 minutes, 10 seconds, and 18 frames. To move very quickly to the out point, we could hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and then roll the mouse from left to right across the playback window. Unfortunately for this particular video, that technique does not work very well. Notice how the playhead has difficulty following the mouse pointer as I roll it from left to right. A better way for this clip would be to first release the Shift key and instead left-click on the playhead itself and drag it across the timeline until we get to approximately the point we want to be. That's pretty good. We're at 10 minutes, 9 seconds, and 16 frames. Now, to move with greater precision, I'll use the right arrow key to move frame by frame until I get to exactly 10 minutes, 10 seconds, and 18 frames. Now I'll mark that as the out point by tapping the letter O on my keyboard. Notice that the 10-minute segment I just selected is highlighted on the timeline. Next, I'll click the Export button on the right of the Shotcut button bar. I can usually leave most of these settings alone. The only one I'd like to call your attention to is under the second out of the 4 tabs at the top of the Export window. After clicking the second tab labeled Codec, the first setting I see is the quality setting, which is normally set to a default value of 60%. 60% quality usually yields videos that both look good and have a reasonable file size. If, however, a quality setting of 60 yields videos that are too large, I'll need to decrease its value in order to generate files of a smaller size. Of course, when I do that, the quality of the video will also decrease. Conversely, if a quality setting of 60 yields videos that don't look very good, I'll need to increase its value in order to generate better looking videos. Of course, when I do that, the file size will also increase. Please remember that quality and compression are inversely related to one another. As I decrease the quality, I'm actually increasing the amount of compression I'm using. And as I increase the quality, I'm actually decreasing the amount of compression I'm using. Let's leave quality set to its default value of 60% to see what we get. Next, I'll click the Export File button at the bottom left of the export window. I'll save my video to the desktop and name it Extracted 10-minute segment with 60 quality. Although Shotcut should automatically put in the extension for me, I'll type it in manually here, .mp4. Then I'll click the Save button at the bottom. Please notice that as soon as I click the Save button, the Jobs panel opens to the right. We see the name of the file we're creating and the % progress of the job. Currently, we're only at the 1% level. This will take quite a while. We must wait until the progress reaches 100%. When that happens, we'll see the word Done appear to the right of the file name. Only when we see the word Done has Shotcut actually finished creating the file. I'll pause recording until that happens. Now that the export process has finished, let's take a look at the size of the video file we've just created. I'll click the Open File button. Then I'll scroll down the contents of my desktop until I find the brand new video named Extracted 10-minute segment with 60 quality. When I hover my mouse over the file, I see that it has a size of 452 megabytes. That's much larger than our 300 megabyte limit. Apparently, going with the default quality setting of 60 yields videos that are too large for our purposes. We need to use a lower quality setting. Just remember, however, don't use a quality setting that is so low that the actual quality of the video will start to suffer. We'll need to experiment to find something that works for us. After closing the Open File window, I notice that my original 2014 video with the in and the out points still marked is still open on my screen. All I have to do to export this video using a different quality setting is look under the Codec tab once again and change the value of 60 to something smaller. I'll type in 50 instead to see what that does. Then I'll click the Export File button at the bottom left of the export window. I'm still saving my videos to my desktop. I will call this one Extracted 10-minute segment with 50 quality .mp4. Now you see why I like to include numerical values for the settings I'm using. If I need to experiment, it helps me keep track of which file uses which settings. Now all I have to do is click the Save button and wait for the process to complete. After this second export process has finished, let's check the size of the file it created. Once again, I'll click the Open File button, scroll down the contents of my desktop, and this time place my mouse over the file named extracted 10-minute segment with 50 quality. This newer file has a size of 258 megabytes. That is certainly lower than our 300 megabyte limit. Now let's try to open the file to check its quality. I'll simply double-click on it. When I'm presented with the query as to whether I want to save the project file, as always, I'll answer no. Fortunately, the quality looks just fine. So the moral of the story is, number one, don't be afraid to experiment with different quality settings under the codec tab. And number two, be sure to always go back to the original file each and every time you want to generate a version with different amounts of compression. Never try to recompress a file you've previously compressed. Doing so will only reduce the quality further.